Good morning from our global headquarters in New York. I'm Manus Cranny with Denny Berger. Welcome to Bloomberg Brief. Let's set your agenda.
Markets brace for another busy week with the Fed and U.S. jobs in focus, plus a rush of earnings, including Apple and Amazon. The yen punches through 160 before rebounding strongly, fueling intervention speculation. And Elon Musk makes a surprise trip to China, clearing two key hurdles to introduce its driver assistance system to the world's biggest auto market. Good morning, Manus.
Danny, a very good morning. How to win friends and influence markets. That is what Elon Musk did with a surprise trip. This is a game changer, according to Dan Ives. Stocks are higher. You had your best week of 2024 last week, up 2.5%. Tesla is bid because they're clearing hurdles to autonomous driving in China. They're tying up with Baidu. More on that story as we go through the morning. We're counting down to, is it going to be a Powell hawkish pivot? There's various narratives out there. Yields are down 3 basis points this morning. You've had 4 weeks of losses on these bond markets. I like what Diane Swonk had to say. The Fed has no choice but to stand down on rate cuts. And there is the very personification of a 350 basis point move in the market. 450 basis points, That's the virulence in dollar yen. Did they intervene? Did they not? We don't know yet.
But Manus, literally, when I woke up this morning, every single most read story was about the yen. It really underscores the edginess of this market. You have Mizuho saying it could have been a fat finger. You have IG Australia saying it has the hallmarks of intervention.